Hey guys, what's up? This is Conrad at GOG Boxing. Good to see you. This show is going to be a little bit different. We're going to answer some questions, and then we're going to get into some kind of technique things at the end of the show. But first, before we get to the questions, I got to say thanks for writing in. You can write in on Facebook on GOG Boxing, or you can comment on YouTube. And on YouTube, the most watched video is actually the product review for these gloves, these Fairtex Mexican style BGV or BVG9. I get them mixed up now. Gosh, they are great gloves. So guys that are writing in, you can't go wrong with them. I really do think that. I don't work for Fairtex, get anything from them, but I love these gloves. I am going to do some other product reviews. I've actually had trouble getting my hands on some of the things I want. They've been like out of stock, but soon. But you can't go wrong with those. I put a lot of time in the bags with them and endless rounds, and man, they're practically like new. I don't really see any difference. But now to the questions. This one kind of made me laugh. So, do you turn your foot or not? This is from Chris in the U.S. You were pretty wishy-washy with those videos. Or are you still sick? That's pretty funny. Well, actually, I'm not still sick. I feel a lot better. Don't get sick. Be careful. Wear your mask. I actually do believe that you don't want to get COVID or anything else nowadays. Nasty stuff. But when it comes into turning your foot, I assume you're talking about the jab, right? That because I put out a couple of these videos before. Actually, to be honest, no, not really. I do twitch my lead foot, and I feel the twitch. And I've talked about in other videos, your foot, your foot, your ankle, your knee, your hip, your shoulder, and then your jab. And I do believe in that, feeling it, that is from your feet, from your legs. But that doesn't mean that I'm really turning it. Now, I'm not saying I never have, and I'm not saying you can't. But if you turn your foot in, you're going to have trouble, you know, with double jabs, getting your combos off. It's going to affect your movement. So it's not something that really, if I'm being honest, not being wishy-washy, I don't really do. However, is it wrong? This is kind of funny. In that video, in one of the videos, I noticed I said, I think I've even seen Sonny Liston turn his foot, right? And then I just forgot about it. But then a couple of weeks ago, Dougie from The Ring magazine, I read his editorials every Monday and Fridays, and in one of those editorials, there was a guy who wrote in a question about Sonny Liston and his jab and asked about him maybe having like a double joint in his shoulder because he had such tremendous reach. And Dougie wrote, well, I mean, obviously that sounds kind of insane. Dougie wrote he didn't know about that, except that he did turn his front foot sometimes to get extra reach. So, vindicated, I think. I mean, if Sonny Liston did it, I guess you can too. Although I'm not sure I'd recommend it, right? Now, next question. Hi, thanks for the shout out in the vid, but can you not use my name next time? Okay, I'm still having trouble. That kind of makes me Mr. Anonymous. I'm still having trouble bobbing under after jabs. It just does not feel natural. Also, my hook feels weak when I turn it over, like you said. What to do? Okay, look, I'm not your coach. Again, I've talked about this before. I'm not your coach. I'm a gym rat. I'm getting kind of old. I can still move around a little bit. I can still punch a little bit. So if it works for me at this age, it probably can work for you. That's where I'm coming from. Now, if your coach says to do something else, do it. But if I don't see a video of you, I don't know what to tell you. But maybe you're just not bending your knees enough. You know, a lot of times guys start standing up too much when they're boxing, and then they're surprised they can't really move around. So you might think about bending your knees. That may be something. But as far as your jab goes, at the end of this video, I'm going to show another exercise to maybe get you used to turning it. When I turning it over, I'm assuming you're meaning like that, like this position. I'm not a big fan of this type of hook, right? This is more what we're talking about when you come to the hook. And I understand it doesn't feel, it feels weak. It might not feel natural, but that will pass. That will pass. But I'll show you another exercise in the vid. Something that may be something that helps you at the end of this vid. Okay? Hope that helps, Mr. Anonymous. Now, okay, I like this question. Angela from the UK, Angela C from the UK. What is the fight you most want to see in 2021? Oh, well, I have no doubt about that. That is going to be Errol Spence Jr. against Terrence Crawford. I think that's the fight we all want to see, isn't it? I mean, that's what I really do want to see that fight, unless maybe you're talking about Joshua and Fury. I don't know when these fights can happen. I hope they happen soon. But Crawford against Spence, I mean, that's like the biggest non-heavyweight fight out there for me for sure. I would love to see that. I'm a huge fan of Crawford, but I'm also, being originally from Texas, a fan of Spence. However, there's another fight I'd really like to see, and that would be Crawford against up-and-comer, I don't know if we should call him prospect still, Boots Ennis, Aaron Ennis. I don't know if you've seen this guy fight. He's got a fight coming up, not this weekend, but I think in 2 weeks. Type his name in on YouTube if you're not familiar. Boots Ennis. This guy's got tons of talent. I'm a huge fan. I think he's going to be really something special. Victor Ortiz against, actually could also be good against Crawford. But if you look at Boots and Crawford, both of them have a 74-inch reach. Both of them can really move. Crawford obviously is a switch hitter. They got all kinds of technique. I love watching both of them. Now, Crawford's a switch hitter, and he can really fight southpaw, though. And then Boots Ennis, he's an orthodox. I just think that would be an amazing fight, and nobody seems to be talking about it yet. Actually, this weekend there's a lot. There are a lot of fights that are interesting fights. Maybe not my most. I'm not super looking forward to them, but there's a lot still in December. But we're going to have Joshua Pulev this weekend. We've got Shakur Stevenson fighting this weekend. Chris Colbert's fighting this weekend. Prospect, not a lot of knockouts, but a lot of technique. And then actually 2 weeks from now we got Nonito Donaire. We're going to have another Canelo. All kinds of stuff happening in December. I do my predictions on GOG Boxing on Facebook. Take a look. I'm shooting about 85–87% picking winners. It'd be a little higher, but I made a couple of picks just for me being stupid. But go ahead and check those out. I try to write them up every Wednesday or Thursday when I have time. Usually I try to make time. Last question. As I saw your peekaboo video, I saw your peekaboo video. Are you going to do a Patterson and Torres peekaboo differences video? Oscar P, thanks for writing in on GOG Boxing on Facebook. And great knockdown, by the way. Oscar sent in a video of one of his fights. You should definitely put that up on Facebook on your site. I don't know if I'm going to think about if I'm going to do actually video on that. I do like analyzing fighters and trying to find stuff I can pull out, use for myself, because you can teach yourself. It's a learning experience. But I'm not a huge peekaboo guy. That's not really where I come from. However, if we were just going to think about it without doing a whole video, if you look at Patterson and the way he fought, obviously all these guys were under the influence of Customado, right? But if you look at Patterson, the way he fought, you really do see a lot of similarities between him and Tyson. You see Patterson really working the left, his left hooks, his left uppercuts. You see even that type of move I talked about in the Tyson video where he's getting a lot of torque on it. Their approach is a little bit different, with Patterson's maybe a little bit more herky-jerky, but okay. Now, why would they be similar? Because, to tell you the truth, both of them were undersized fighting heavyweights. Both of them had a 71-inch reach, which is not very long when you fight these big monsters. I mean, Tyson especially went up against Bone Crusher Smith. Patterson, of course, fought Ali, who maybe didn't have a super long reach, but had a fantastic jab. But if you look at Torres, that's a little bit different because he had that, Puerto Rican, the footwork. His footwork is really something to watch, and his style is different. When he would have his hands up, but he would have his closer to the body, not so much this kind of Tyson Patterson with the elbows out, but closer to the body. And also a lot of times he's working the right hand, right? And he also, when you see him come over and throw that left hook to the body, it looked a lot like a Mexican hook, and he'd really be able to reach out there and tag guys with it. Now, he was fighting only as a light heavyweight, not as a heavyweight, and he had a 74-inch reach, which is a much longer reach. It's 3 inches, but it makes a difference, especially at a lighter weight like that. But all this puts, if you go back to Crawford and Boots Ennis and their 74-inch reach, man, the welterweight division, it's something else right now. So, something just to think about before we go forward. If I forget to say so, like, subscribe, keep writing in questions. If I don't write the answers, maybe I'll do another one of these videos and comment on them. But for now, let's jump to the war room and talk about, let's see if we can make that that turning over that left hook, feel a little bit more natural and exercise for that. And also get out to the gazebo. And in the future, we're going to get some other things, maybe even some of that Puerto Rican moves, Puerto Rican type style footwork. I'm a big fan of the early fights, pre-Rosario with Macho Camacho. And stick with me. And 1, 2, 3, let's get to work. All right, so up here in the war room, we're going to address these questions. The first question I'm just going to address very, very quickly. It's again that after a jab, our guy couldn't actually bob under left. And you know what? Like I said, that may just be because you're standing too straight up. I mean, look, a lot of times people aren't thinking, they develop weird little bad habits. But if you're standing straight up and you throw that jab, what happens is a lot of times your feet, your knees are going to straighten out. So effectively, you've thrown it and your knees are straightened out. Yeah, from here, it is hard to slip under and you're not going to do it very fast. So if you're having trouble with that, maybe all it really is that you just need to bend your knees a bit. So you throw the jab and then you can smoothly bob under to your left after that jab, or you throw 2 jabs and you can bob under. I mean, sometimes it's that simple. Now this is why you got to do things under the eye of a coach, because he'll see these little things. You know, you train, you build up your body, but because of imbalances, you might start doing things that you don't even sense. Okay, so maybe try that. That may work for you. Okay, just don't stand so straight up. You know, people also start bobbing on their toes and they don't realize that their legs are getting really straight. Okay, that will keep you from not only being able to go to one side, but the other side to do anything. You can't just be like straight on giraffe legs, right? Now, let's go to this drill to help you with that hook. Now, again, I know there's a lot of guys that are going to throw the hook like this, so where their fist is like perpendicular to the floor, right? Instead of horizontal. Now, I'm a big fan of learning how to throw this. I'm not saying you can't do both, but especially when you throw it like this and it's a longer hook, you may get called for slapping, right? And also, again, I've said it before, if you get caught and you want to throw a short hook, this is a much quicker natural movement than this. I can't even do that fast. I don't even want to do that fast. It feels funny. Guys that throw a hook perpendicular like that, they tend to need to really cock it back. You can get power like that, I'm not saying, but sometimes it's good to have that weapon. Now, some of you, again, just like the guy wrote in, I forgot his name now. Oh, he didn't want to be named, that's right. He says it does not feel right when he does this type of hook, right? Now, I understand that. I think some of that may be just from doing sports, especially growing up in the States. You play football, you play basketball. I play basketball. Lots of lifting weights, push-ups. I'm pretty sure that muscle structure kind of does start limiting your shoulders, at least for like a boxer. Not saying you shouldn't do any push-ups or anything like that, but also push-ups, you learn to push. We want to be able to punch now, so you got to be careful with all those push-ups. But let's talk about what we can do to get where this feels more comfortable. Now, I talked already about in another video for guys, because some guys, they try to muscle that hook. They're trying to muscle the hook. Or they're trying to, even this way, they're trying to muscle the hook, and it doesn't work. I talked about feeling it from your feet, so your foot, your knee, your hip, and getting that looseness. Now that, and then you gradually are going to make that hook tighter, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you want to always throw big looping hooks, and this is this is another reason why I want to show you this. But if you're having trouble feeling like you can do a hook where you're turning your fist over like that, this is exercise for you, and it's pretty simple to make it finally get to the point. You remember that exercise you do when you first show up in the gym, especially when you're a younger guy and you're thinking about amateurs, and they say get up on your toes and go forward and back, right? Right? Everybody's done that. You know what I'm talking about? You're in your stance and you're going forward and back. This is just a takeoff of that. That's all it is. What you do is you go, I'm going to go real slow, and I'm going to go real slow for a couple of reasons, so I'm going to tell you in a minute. First of all you're going to do is you're going to go forward, and look what happens. When you're doing that bounce, when you bounce forward, you're going to have that back heel up, right? This is important. When you go back, the back heel's down. But when we do this, maybe it's not down if you're on your toes, but okay, it's going to be down in this exercise. So what we do is you're going to go forward, but when you come back, you're going to come back down onto that heel. And when you come onto that heel, and coming on that heel is important with the left hook, when you come onto that heel, you're going to turn this front foot. And all you're going to do with this hand, I'm going to put this hand down right now. All you do with this hand, when you come down, is you're going to turn it over. That's it. That's it. Now, you say, well, that's not a hook. It is a hook. It is a hook. You just don't understand it's a hook if you're saying that. Now, and again, we're going to do this slow. Okay, I'm going to put this arm down. Forward, I'm super slow motion, forward and back, forward. That's all it is. If we were here, and we're going to, well, I'm going to put this arm down. Okay, if we were here, and I'm doing this hop, but I'm going to do it slow. So forward, down on my back heel, I'm going to turn my foot in, and that's when it's going to come down. So forward, turn, forward and back, forward and back. And it's just this simple motion. That's all you have to worry about right now. You say, well, that's not going to knock out anybody. I'm not like Bruce Lee. Well, just give it time. Give it time. Obviously, if you're doing it real time, it's going to be faster, okay? But first, let's do it if we're going really slow. If we're lining up, I'm going to get like this first, and I'm going forward, back, forward, turn and back, forward, turn and back, forward and back, forward and back, forward. And I'm going to see I'm turning this foot, and I'm coming down on my heel, and that is when I'm turning my arm over, okay? I'll do it this way. If we're going forward, back, bam, forward, bam, forward, bam. That's just the movement. That's the movement. Now, you will do it a little bit faster. You'll be forward, pop. But don't worry about it yet. If we're going to do it, I'll do it a little bit faster here, though. If we're going to go forward, I'm doing this hop, forward, bop. But I got to turn. I got to make sure I'm coming back on my heel, and I'm turning this foot over. Now, what you're going to do, we're going to go down. So I'm not warmed up. Make sure you get warmed up if you do any of this stuff, especially guys with shoulders like mine. You're going to go down to the heavy bag, and what we're going to do is I'm going to put the heavy bag up. And I'm not going to stand far away. We're not practicing doing long hooks. You're going to stand close to the heavy bag, to the side of the heavy bag. And when you do this, so it's just right into the side of the heavy bag. And that's how you're going to practice to start with. But you got to start slow. Why? Because people have messed up shoulders. And you don't know what kind of mess is in there. And if you're not used to doing this, you will be surprised. One, it'll get tired, it'll feel weird. You don't want to hurt yourself, okay? So be careful and start slow until you start feeling it, and over time, build this up. Now, there's one other last thing to add in here. When you see guys shadow boxing, there's so many guys that they shadow box, they're just throwing all kinds of punches. And they're not thinking about really the goal of shadow boxing, which a lot of it is your feet move from one position to another. But when you're shadow boxing, when you see guys that are good at shadow box, they're not throwing big, wide, crazy punches to shadow box. They're keeping tight, right? They're keeping tight. So they move, they might throw a jab, they come over here, jab, punch, hook. They're coming under hook. You see, they're not throwing these big, wide punches. But one thing that you can practice when you do that, and you'll see guys do it, instead of keep making fists, right? Instead of making fists, there's no reason to be super tense when you're shadow boxing. Their hands are loose and they're open, and they're actually not even making fists when they're throwing the punches. So their punches be like, wow. And one thing, it's easy to see that your arms are straight with those. But when they throw a hook, let's say that they throw a 1, 2, and look what happens when I throw the 2. My back heel comes up. 2, when they come over and they throw a hook, right, you'll see their hand exaggerate that movement. 1, 2, 3, right? And you say, well, why are they doing that, right? Well, one reason is actually you're practicing to do that exactly what I'm talking about, that type of punch, right? So you're here, bop, come under, bop. You know, you're getting used to this movement. And you say, well, some of you will say, I'm still not convinced. Am I going to get power like that? Yeah, you are going to get power. There's been tons of knockouts from short, sharp chopping lead hooks. And I'll give you an example of something that just happened last weekend. If you look at the Terrence Crawford-Kell Brook fight, people are like, what was that? Kell Brook doesn't have any punch resistance. Well, look, Crawford was in a southpaw stance. Kell Brook, when he and Kell Brook went at each other, what did he do? He came over with this short, and it was just like this. People are like, was that a jab? Was that a hook? Tell you the truth, it's like a mini hook. And you say, well, Kell Brook has no punch resistance. Man, I'm telling you, you get hit with those short, choppy punches. And you saw Kell Brook. He takes the hit and he's all the way over into the ropes. He's just out of it, didn't see it coming, right? This is a good weapon to have in your arsenal, but it's something that builds up over time. Okay, it builds up over time, right? So think about that, and we'll talk about some shadow boxing drills, right? So that you get some footwork in before you start just throwing mad punches, and we'll do it step by step. We'll do some of that in the future. But right now, let's go down to the Love Shack, because the gazebo is still full of junk. To the Love Shack, I'm going to set it out. I'm just going to show you slow how to do it, and I'm telling you again, don't overdo it. Don't hurt yourself, all right? Let's go.